Microphones are live.
Good morning. Welcome to today's meeting of the Corporate Governance Committee. The first item on the agenda is the appointment of the chairman. Do we have any nominations?
Yes, I'd like to propose Councillor Allen for chair and Councillor Newton for vice chair.
That's to secretary, councillor, chair and councillor Newton.
Thank you.
Morning, everyone, and welcome to the first meeting of this municipal year of the Combined Borough Authority Corporate Governance Committee. Can I particularly welcome Alex Maxfield, who's been about independent people. Thank you so much for the input role that you do. It's good to meet you. And so enjoy your time on the CFA. Any questions? Dive in. I've also received apologies from Mr. Biffon Bakri, who's the second independent member. Hopefully we'll meet him in due course. As usual, the meeting will be recorded and uploaded to YouTube after the meeting. The link is available on the Combined Borough Authority website. Can I ask that all members and officers either turn off their phones or switch them to silent, please. Any infractions will incur a £10 penalty, which will put the chair to charity. So number 3 is apologies for absence. I have an apology from Councillor Super. Do we have any others? No. Item 4, which is to receive declaration by members of interest in respective items on the agenda. Does anyone have any interest that they wish to declare? No. 5, to advise of any other items which the chair has decided to take as urgent. I have not been notified of any additional urgent items. Item 6, chair's announcements. I have 3 announcements. Firstly, new recruits. The latest cohort of new recruits has now returned from the Fire Service College and are due to take up their posting in a couple of days. With the addition of this cohort, the service has now the requisite number of staff to move away from the day crew plus duty system. This is no small achievement given the retirement profile and pension changes, whilst also increasing the size of the service. Congratulations to everybody involved in that. Charity events. Multiple charity events have taken place to raise funds for firefighters charity and a number of other local causes. These include new recruits hosted a charity car wash at Winston Fire Station. Hopefully they might have another one. I've got several which would benefit from that particular service. The new recruits have walked up Mount Snowdon in full fire kit. Human Resources undertook the 3 Peats challenge, which is all 3 Peats within 24 hours. Rather than me. Breathing apparatus exercise. The service undertook a major breathing apparatus exercise. This utilised the vacant Debenham store at the Hyde Park Shopping Centre in Leicester. It saw 10 fire appliances and over 50 staff involved and delivered a large-scale breathing apparatus deployment scenario in complex and challenging environments. Move on to item 7. First, we need to confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 13th of March. These are on pages 5 to 8 of the pack. If there are any questions or corrections, please ask now. Otherwise, I'll move that the minutes of the meeting held 13th of March be taken as read, confirmed and signed. Second, those in favour, please show. Item 8. So this is the first main item on today's agenda, which is the External Audit Strategy Memorandum for 2023-2024. This is on pages 9 to 68 of your pack. And we have Avtar Sohar and Keith Chozawa from Grant Thornton who have joined the meeting via Teams to present this item. Over to you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Chair. So, first of all, thank you for having us here today. And just to introduce ourselves, I'm Avtar. I'm the engagement lead on the audit. I've worked on a number of fire authorities before as the engagement lead. So currently I'm working as West Midlands Fire Authority engagement lead, Hereford and Worcester Fire engagement lead, and I've also worked on as engagement lead on Shropshire Fire as well. So I've got some, fire experience here, and I've got Keith as a senior manager who is part of the team. We're picking up the audit from Mazars now, and hopefully we'll deliver to good timescales and a good quality as you would expect from us. So what I want to focus on is probably page 16 of your pack, page 6 of our report, which actually just gives us the headlines around the audit plan. So as you're aware, we would always have significant risks on audits, and here for this fire authority we've got 3 significant risks, and these are areas where we think there's more likelihood of material misstatement just in case something did go wrong. So first of all, we've got management override of controls, and you'll probably be aware of this, that every audit would have management override of controls as a significant risk, and it's something that we can't rebut, and it's really just around journals and estimations of how these could be potentially overridden by management. Valuation of land and buildings, and this is a material estimate in the financial statements, and it's quite complicated in terms of how the valuations are made using external experts and building specialists, etc., to make those valuations, and therefore the number of inputs that you could go into that calculation, it could be easy to get a material error. So that's why we have that as a significant risk. And also the valuation of the net pension liability, again, it's a complicated estimate which requires the use of specialists and experts with various inputs, and again, this could be wrong easily, so lead to a material misstatement. So those are the significant risks, but we do focus on every other material element of the financial statements. We have determined our planning materiality to be around 880k at this point in time, and that was based on the prior year's financial statements. And we will then, in our audit findings report, report on anything which is above 44k, which is our triviality level. In terms of our other responsibilities, we need to give you a report on your value for money. And at this point in time, we haven't identified any significant weaknesses or significant risks that we need to bring to your attention, but we are focusing on making sure that arrangement for financial sustainability, governance, and the 3 E's is appropriate when we do our work, which is going to be starting very soon. As part of our audit logistics, our audit planning time has been taken over mainly over April, and we will start the financial statements audit side in October time. Our proposed audit fee is just close to 94k, and there's more details in the back pages around that. And at that point, I'd just like to take any questions if you've got any on the audit plan.
You've got any questions? Thank you. After just one quick question. So from those 3 significant risks, it looks as if there's work in place to address all of those. Is that accurate?
Yes. So what we do is we've got the procedures and everything normal, and these 3 significant risks are probably similar to any council or authority audit. So what we do is make sure we've got our procedures mapped out to do the risks, and we only highlight them because they could lead to material misstatements, but we don't expect them to lead to material misstatements at this point. But it's just they're the ones where errors could probably be identified from quite easily.
So we don't need to be concerned about them at the moment.
No, I wouldn't be too concerned. It's just that we have to highlight them as probably those 3 areas where it could easily become a material misstatement if something goes wrong, really. And we've seen that in the past. So,
thank you for that.
And then what I'll do, I'll pass it over to Keith now. He'll just introduce himself, and he'll take you through the second document, which is the informing the audit risk document. Keith, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry about that. Thank you, Aftab. Good morning, Corporate Governance Committee. So I am Keith Chaisewa. I'll be working with AFTA on the audit. We have so far engaged well with the finance team to get to the stage where we are presenting the audit plan as well as the informing the audit risk assessment. Now, that document informing the audit risk assessment, which is from page 35, this is basically as required by the ISAs, which are the audit standards. And this evidence is the two-way communication between ourselves and those charged with governance. Now, you will note that there are several questions that we would have asked management to provide responses to, and this provides us with an understanding of the organization, which feeds into our risk assessment procedures. So we inquired around fraud, laws and regulations, going concern, accounting estimates, etc. And from those inquiries, we did not identify any issues from the responses that we received from management. Hence, we take this document from our end as your external auditors as read. However, the one inquiry that we probably have for yourself as chair would be whether those responses are consistent as well with your understanding of the organization.
No reason to challenge them, but happy to discuss further if there is anything in particular.
All right, thank you for that. With that, that's about it from my end. Thank you.
Richard. Just to say, initial observations, it feels completely right. It mirrors where we think we are, and we look forward to working with people through the future to kind of improve the service. So yeah, it feels about right from my perspective.
All right, thank you for that. That's about it from my end.
Nice if we, as members of this authority, would like to send our thanks for all the hard work they do. And just don't say it, but it goes on constantly in the background.
Indeed, but the organisation like this one's really moving on with everybody paddling furiously.
Yeah, just a point of accuracy going forward, not material for this meeting per se. On general inquiries of management on page 42 of the pack, we sought approval yesterday from the subcommittee of the Combined Fire Authority to move away from the arrangement with Leicester City Council with Amy as treasurer, and we will be going out to advert for head of corporate financial services, and that treasury function will be brought in-house. So that's not likely to take effect until around Christmas time, although and we have got interim arrangements in place. Amy will formally be stepping back, as you know, from September. So just for the auditors, just for a point of accuracy going forward, it won't be Leicester City Council, it will be Leicestershire Fire and Rescue Service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Up to you. That's it. Okay, that's the reports. Is there any questions, points, queries? Move that the external audit strategy memorandum for the year ended 31st of March 2024 be noted. Can I have a second, please? Thanks, Dan. Thank you. Okay, we move on to item 9. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you, Tom. Move on to item 9, which is the draft statement of accounts 2023-24. So this is on pages 69 to 72 of the pack. Amy, I think you're taking this one for us, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So this is a very short report. It's a holding report. It's just here to notify you that we haven't met the deadline of publishing our accounts by the 30th of May. It's just noting there's a number of reasons for that. Like many authorities, our audit went on very close to, I think it was in March last year, or this year, sorry, it finished. So that last year's audit has slowed the process down. In addition, we've had a lot of change of resources within the teams that's slowed down, and then we have actually had a technical glitch with our finance system that meant the capital side of it hasn't closed down as quickly as we would like. We also have Colette, who's on this call, who actually is coming in as your interim and will replace me at the end of September, who's working on that now, and we are planning to get the accounts published in the next we're hoping 2 weeks. So this is just a holding report to say we haven't met that deadline. We're not alone. Lots of local authorities out there haven't met that deadline, but we are working to it, and we will hope as soon as we are ready to publish, we'll email all the members of this committee with the link to the accounts.
So it's in hand.
Yeah.
Colette, just to say thank you and welcome. Hope you're all equal places in the office in the future. Anyone got any questions or queries? Thank you. I'm recording noted. Can have a second, please. Thank you. 10 is the Incident Survey Annual Report, 2023-2024. This is on pages 73 to 106 of your agenda pack. Callum, Chief Fire and Rescue Officer.
Thank you, Chair. To preserve members' ears and to give some different voices, I'll ask Assistant Chief Officer Paul Weston to deliver this paper.
Good morning, members. Thank you. I'm pleased to present to you the After the Incident Survey annual report for 23-24. The report summarises the service's performance during operational incidents based upon the feedback directly from members of the community. At the conclusion of an incident, the incident commander would hand out an information card and purposes to make reference back to the incident. It also details what they do next after an incident, i.e. contacting their services, insurance, etc. But on the rear of the card, it also provides a QR code for the individual to actually feedback performance on the service they actually received. The short survey covers call handling, response times, how the individual believed the service performed during the incident, information and advice provided at the time of the incident, and again, the overall satisfaction. By undertaking this feedback as a service, we're able to identify areas where we can continually improve our service delivery. As can be ascertained from paragraph 12 on page 74 of the report, last year's feedback is actually phenomenal, with 98.7% of the respondents satisfied with the initial call, and that's when they make it through to fire control. 99.6% of respondents believed the fire engine arrived as expected or quicker than expected. 100% of respondents felt informed. That's how we communicated during the incident. 98.9% of respondents agreed that the effects of the incident were kept to a minimum, and 100% of respondents were satisfied with the overall service they received from the service. The service, whilst it has fixed questions, also allows the community to feedback to the service their shared experiences in their own words. And as can be seen from pages 20 to 23 of the appendix, which is 96 to 99 of your bundle, the feedback is extremely positive. Comments such as very professional from start to finish, polite and arrived extremely quickly. They were extremely reassuring and they kept me informed throughout. They were very calm, which helped, which definitely helped. But as a service, we take the negative feedback as well. And an example in relation to our call handling, one individual said the call team needs to be more informative. They stay on the call till the fire team arrive, give appropriate advice and update us on the fire team's arrival and their location and how long they will be. So we're taking that information and looking at how we can improve within our call control centre. And with that, Chair, I'm happy to answer any question members may have.
Dan, yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I think the officers are to be congratulated on one wonderful performance. But not just the officers, it's the guys who go out and do the work. They're the frontline people that make all this happen. And I think just looking 98, 99, 100, 98, 91, 100. I mean, these are superb staff. And I think Leicestershire should be very proud of that. And I think it's really important that we convey our thanks to the fire personnel to actually deal with this on a daily basis and create all that goodwill within our organisation amongst the public. So delighted, I'd like to propose that because I think it's important. I mean, I've obviously been on before, but I'm just trying to think when we actually make it known and say thank you to all of the operatives. It's good every now and again, I think, and this is the most appropriate time looking at those figures. You have to work hard to keep this going. Anyway, that's my proposition. If somebody kind enough to set up.
So, just a quick question from me, Paul. So the actual return sort of percentage, it's out about 3,280 odd, 286 back, is that right?
Yeah, so it's really low, but we're looking at ways that we can actually improve it. We currently leave the card, which then relies on the individual to scan the QR code on their phone or on a tablet to be able to feed back to us. So I'm trying to explore different ways. Can we have a tablet on the scene that whilst we're doing the handover, we can give it to the actual occupant to fill in at the time? It's trying to balance that, do it right here, right now, when they've just gone through a really traumatic time, or give them the space and the time to deal with their own emergency and the outcomes of that, and then fill it in at a later date. We're trying to balance when's the right time to do it, because what we don't want to do, and we've tried it previously, that we will phone them up after 2 or 3 weeks. We get some negative feedback from that. So it is trying to maintain that balance. Crews are challenged around how many incidents have you attended, how many cards have you dropped off, and you'll see from the appendix, you've got that ratio of how many incidents, how many cards they've dropped off, and the response. And we're trying to do that balance of getting it right, because we do have to consider the individual has gone through a really traumatic time.
So exactly what I've got to make help or incentivise people to make it as a posted payment return card, so scan it for this of the post, or whatever return you receive, you get entered into a withdrawal or something, and sort of try and encourage feedback. But really see the levels of feedback we're getting, and I think very few organisations that can claim such public appreciation.
It's just a quick one, really through the paper. I'm actually on page 19. It's really very positive, and it's great to see that positivity from residents. But there was something I thought reading through it, somebody said that perhaps more information about technical issues on the right of flooding. And I just wondered if we have a fact sheet or anything that we can give people to help aid them when they have to deal with flooding, or is there a general paper that could provide there for people to read? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you,
Just to respond to Councillor Newton, yes, we have information fact sheets that, dependent on the incident type, the crew should hand over there. So that is something that we are actually promoting.
We didn't have a show of hands in support of the motion or proposed in the secretary. Chairman, I would hate it. Having said all that, then it doesn't go anywhere.
Oh, thank you.
We were on.
If I can, just with reference flooding, we have to be conscious that we don't have the statutory responsibility to attend or mobilise to flooding, nor are we the lead agency for that. So we would signpost people to the Environment Agency, who are the lead authority on that. So it's important to, whilst we can do some stuff, actually, we don't want to tread on people's toes as well. So it's about signposting them to the Environment Authority and their advice, rather than us taking the lead on it.
A lot of areas are subject to flooding by council do also send that sort of information to people on that as well. So I think it is probably coming rightly by the right organisation.
Thank you for that, Dan. Thank you for your motion. And I move that the summary findings be noted. We'll have a second, please. Sarah just got
Yes, somebody else is
Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 11, which is the performance monitoring April 2023 and March 2024 and April 2024 to May 2024. This is on page 107 to 115 of the plan. Oh, I believe you're doing this one. Or would you like to?
I'll take this one if I can do, Chair. We're trying to share it out a little bit. Thank you, Chair. So this is a very large report with an immense amount of detail contained within it. For the general kind of theme of this, I'll be focusing more on pages 111 to 114, the summary table for that full year's worth of data, as I think that's where the most value can be taken out from the data set. So starting on page 111 and looking at KCI key indicator number 1, incidents attended. Overall, Leicestershire Fire and Rescue Service saw the incidents we attended rise by approximately 900 incidents, and this kind of really fluctuated across the board with incident types and nature. Overall, fires are down, which is a positive thing. I think that can be attributed quite well to the particularly poor weather we've had, which suppresses fires quite nicely. The number of false alarms that we've attended have increased. We have a rigorous call challenging process on that to make sure that we are only mobilising and attending those most appropriate incidents where possible. We will still attend some incidents that obviously result in false alarms, but we are confident our call challenging process is rigorous, robust, but still suitable to attend where we need to. Equally, the number of fire alarm systems in both domestic and non-domestic properties across Leicestershire and Rutland increases. So this number is likely to stay persistent as we move forward into new years. Moving down onto KCI 1.4, number of non-fire incidents shows an increase of 601 across the 3-year average. And as you'll see, this is mainly in 3 areas: road traffic collisions, floodings, and affecting entry for partner agencies. So if I start with flooding, as we've just kind of talked about, actually, we need to be conscious we don't have the statutory responsibility to attend flooding incidents, nor do we attract any funding to provide equipment for our crews and safe systems of work. However, we do acknowledge flooding is going to continue within the communities. Climate change is only likely to increase those challenges. And I'm sure members will recall in our last community risk management plan, the CRMP, we actually put forward a motion to increase our capability and capacity for flooding incidents. And that one is working through, I believe one station is now up and running, with others to follow on. So our capacity is increasing, but obviously flooding will depend generally on the nature of the weather. With increased water across the area, that tends to put the flooding calls up, and there's very little we can do to mitigate or manage those incidents down. And wide area flooding is a significant drain on resources when it occurs, simply because of the nature of it, the large areas and the time it takes for flood waters to go down. So we'll continue to look, monitor and work through flooding, and again increase our operational capability to deal with it as appropriate. Sure. If you could bear with me, my next but one paragraph covers that. Yeah. So if we look at road traffic collisions, which is 1.4 B, the second line down, we continue to work in partnership with the Road Safety Partnership, involving a number of authorities across the region to reduce the number and severity for road traffic collisions. This is always a difficult figure to get to the bottom of, because the number of cars on the road increase, the number of journeys appears to increase post-COVID again now. So it's difficult to know if the actual percentage of incidents occurring is going up or down. But what I would say is this is the main area of business where we tend to make life-saving interventions on a daily or weekly basis. As previously highlighted to members in the community risk management plan, the location of these incidents tends to be in the more rural areas, which mean our attendance times is generally a little bit slower. And again, we recognise that in the CRMP, adjusting our attendance times target for that. With that said, it continues to pose a challenge for us, and as a senior management team, we are looking at reallocating more resources into this area to really try and get more preventative work taken out in the rural areas. For members' assurance, as part of coming away from the Day Caring Plus duty system, we were looking at introducing a new vehicle at one of our stations. So we're proposing to task that vehicle's daily activity to get out into the communities and deliver road safety activity. So we won't be taking any resources away from any other area of the organisation. It will be the new resources we get, we'll focus it onto that. And then affecting entry and suicides. We continue to monitor this number really closely, keeping a very mindful eye on the pressures on the ambulance and health system, and also the police's new stance around the most appropriate agency initiative, which is them stepping back from a number of incidents for the most appropriate agency to attend. We're keeping a very weathered eye on that, and at the moment the impact on us is relatively small in terms of incident numbers, but the time we attend at those incidents isn't insignificant, to be fair. We feel at the moment we've just about got that balance right, striving for our vision of safer people, safer places, supporting our community where we can, but we continue to monitor that really, really closely. And in fact, this week alone, we have been out to fight one incident every night that's taken about 3 hours on every occasion to resolve, 2 people in crisis, etc. Those incidents, it was someone at height, potentially in a vulnerable position, so it was appropriate for us to attend those. So it's a constant balancing act, this one, and it's one that we're going to have to very much work on. Moving down to KCI 2, and I will come to the suicide attempt shortly, which is split over E 111 and 112. And this talks about the number of fatalities and casualties we received across the organisation. In a perfect world, these figures will be 0, and until they are 0, we very much have more work to do. 5 fatalities across LLR is disappointing for us. Each one of those feels like an opportunity missed at some point earlier in the line through ourselves, preventative work, or educating the community. With that said, with our population size, that is very much in keeping with national trends and national statistics. 2.5 and 2.6 cover the employee impacts and welfare figures, and this kind of covers all of the incidents we attend, whether it be fire, road traffic collisions, suicide attempts, or welfare, whichever it may be. I've talked on multiple occasions around the multiple and many layers of different welfare support we have available, different counselling, different support services that's available to our service and our staff 24/7. This was best highlighted to members on the 21st of June 2023 in a full paper to the full authority, talking about our health and wellbeing provision for employees. So I would kind of direct members to look back at that if they have questions around our welfare provisions. I am conscious on the culminative effect on staff. And again, just to reassure members, we have both formal and informal measures, both internal and external measures. So we've got the full suite of support available to staff, either in the guise of our doctors and our occupational health unit, or in the guise of external support provided by us, but without the data trail back into the organisation. Moving on to KCI number 3, levels of emergency response service provision. Covers call numbers and availability. These numbers, in truth, replicate a number of national trends around increased attendance times through a whole host of different factors, mainly roads being busier, road networks becoming more congested, and the on-call availability seeing a slight decrease. I would suggest we're probably at a plateau with on-call availability at the moment, where the figures are slightly skewed by coming out of COVID and the increased availability we saw during that period, to where we're settling to on-call availability. We have got obviously a number of options being trialled at the moment, particularly around the variable response vehicles, which we feel will see an increase in availability, but not likely see an increase in on-call staff numbers. And I suppose only on that section as well, the new mobilising system goes live on the 7th of October. We are expecting that to see an improvement in our call handling times, i.e. reduce the call handling time and getting the signal to stations sent a little bit quicker. And we're expecting to see that impact across most, if not all, of those call times. Moving on to KCI 4 and 5. These are 2 relatively small sections in this report, but they cover 2 of the massive statutory responsibilities we have as an organisation. I am particularly proud of all of these figures, but these ones especially so. They represent a vast amount of work going on in the prevention and protection side of things. Don't often make the headlines, isn't often seen work, but it's a massive part of our statutory responsibility. And I certainly, whilst I don't have the current national figures available, would see us being in the top 10 for fire and rescue services across the country, which is a massive achievement, bearing in mind the size of the organisation and the comparatively poor funding for this service. Kind of really shows the ethos that Councillor Harrison was talking around everyone pulling their weight and really delivering some fantastic work in the prevention and protection side of the organisation. I could probably talk for hours on the rest of the report because there's loads and loads of information in it on there, and I'm conscious I've been talking at 100 miles an hour to members, so I'll probably pause there and take any questions if anyone has any.
Question for me. So, are we seeing any particular increase in problems involving electric vehicles? And sort of attached, seems to be an increase in people using the electric scooter kind of thing. So, either collisions with them on roads, I think also potential problems with them blowing up when they're being charged. So, within electric vehicles, is that an issue that we're...
So electric cars, not currently, and I need to kind of suggest this. Yes, we do see vehicle fires in battery operated vehicles, but we also see vehicle fires in hydrocarbonate petrol vehicles as well. So electric vehicles are no less safe than traditional vehicles. What we're seeing is the number of them is increasing. The impacts of electric vehicle fires can be significantly different, just because of the high intensity fires that those batteries produce and how we tackle them, but we're not currently seeing any disproportionate approach to electric vehicles. With regards to scooters, that's a different story, where we are seeing nationally across the board and locally the impact of some imported and less regulated electric scooters rather than manufacturer and decent quality production vehicles, shall we call it. And we have seen a number of domestic dwelling fires of very significant nature that have resulted from battery failure in, I'm trying to think of the word, less well manufactured scooter vehicles. So what I would say is when lithium-ion batteries are in vehicles or in scooters and they're installed properly, they are completely safe. It's the lower end products that don't necessarily have the CE marks or the EN marks that are causing us challenges. This is seen across the country, and the National Fire Chiefs Council is leading an awful lot of campaigns around awareness and promoting good battery charging routines. That is now factoring into our home fire safety checks as well, around not charging your scooters in hallways or in your escape routes, preferably charging them outside, although that does present some challenges as well. So electric vehicles, no. Low quality scooters, yes.
At times, scooters breaking down. One shot is left as it won't go, but it wasn't there the next day. But I just wonder what happens when they break down and say it's right now.
Used on private property. So
This is the public highways and the footpaths. Roads.
So from our perspective, that's nothing to do with the fire and rescue service. Obviously, the legality of using it would be a matter for the police and local authorities. We would only respond in the event of fire.
You know the reasons. I'm not going to go into the reasons and everything, and it's kind of more strategic thing because we know all the reasons and
And I've taken the court handling one. So in the I took the March 24 times, the March 24 months where you split them off, so I could do the kind of mobilisation and the drive times. But I also looked at Melton and North West Leicestershire, so it's definitely a rural issue as opposed to, and we know it's likely to get worse from the research already stated, and it's more for a service perspective and a little bit of reassurance. So we know we're kind of consistently missing that 10 minute mark on those three places. Does it leave us, basically, I wanted some reassurance, does it leave us open to any sort of liability in the event of any serious kind of incidents or fatalities or anything like that? That was what the reassurance I was looking for over, as opposed to, I know we're doing our very best, but was there any service implications as opposed to, is where I'm going.
Yep.
As opposed to, we know that there's sometimes we can't get there, but that's the reassurance.
Certainly. So the Fire and Rescue Services Act, which is our primary legislation, contains no requirement for us to attend incidents with any set time period. So the legal structure around it suggests no. The Fire and Rescue Services National Framework 2018, which is currently out for redraft, which we haven't seen yet because of the change of government, again, only asks us to plan for foreseeable emergencies and risks within our community. Our community risk management plan answers that by looking at the risks, placing the best possible mitigations available to us. Previous to the 2004 Fire and Rescue Services Act, there was national attendance times, which did set a prescriptive limit for both the attendance time and number of fire engines to get within a certain period of time. Those were abolished in 2004. So from a legal perspective and a legal challenge, no, there is no physical legislation that says we're missing it, but we are asked to set our own attendance standards in the Community Risk Management Plan, which obviously we've just very recently done, engaged with the community, and that says on an average of 10 minutes we will reach those attendance times. So no, there is no legal risk to us. I'm casting a casual eye over to the monitoring officer just to make sure there's no other advice that I can think of.
So I think that would be the risk area around reputational risk and that's rather than any risk. Which should be best for
Thank you, Chair. Just a question on the methodology here. The 3-year average that you are using as a comparison, is that a fixed 3-year period or is it rolling?
Sure. It's a rolling. Sorry, I'm glancing over my shoulder to the person who crunches the numbers behind. Okay. So it's a rolling 3-year.
So where the results come in above that average, in the next year they'll be rolled into that. So year on year, you would measure yourself against a deteriorating standard. Is that right?
Well,
it's going to make it will make it really hard. If that's what you guys do, it would make it really difficult to notice a slow drift of results. So it may be worth considering having a benchmark period.
So certainly, if I can respond to that, Chair, that's this table has been devised by the Corporate Governance Committee and checked with what that's want. If it's something we'd like to review, we're completely open to it. Ultimately, we report the statistics and information as per this committee would like to see it. So if that's something you'd ask us to go away and review, we can happily do that. The 3-year rolling period was in there to give kind of an indication to the Corporate Governance Committee around where trends were going. Rather than just producing the in-year stats, giving you a comparator. But if it's something we'd like to review, we're more than happy to review that.
But I mean, really, it is just an observation for me that it's open to everyone to, if that's how it wants to be measured, that is absolutely fine. My observation is it will make it hard to spot slowly drifting, deteriorating. Times.
That's fair.
So as long as they're committed aware of that, then that's fine.
Certainly. Yeah.
So, was there some more to go on this one? Okay, in which case, I move that the performance of the Fire Rescue Service for April 2023, March 24, and April 2024 to May 2024 be noted. Second, please. Thank you. Agenda item 12. So we move on to the Service Development Programme and CRMP 2024-28 actions. This is on page 151 to 164 of the agenda pack. Callum, I've got you down for this one.
I should like to give Paul another development opportunity.
Thank you for my development opportunities, boss. Thank you, Chair. The next paper, obviously, is the Service Development Programme and the CRMP 2024 to 2028 actions. The paper is divided into two parts. The first part covers the progress, both parts cover the progress made since November 2023 in the delivery of projects within the service, and also the tasks that have been completed in the CRMP delivery. Members will note that there's been some extremely big and challenging projects that are being undertaken that take a considerable amount of time and resource to deliver, to ensure that our service remains one of the best fire and rescue services within the country, without a doubt. In particular, I'd like to draw members' attention to the fleet replacement strategy in paragraphs 10 to 14. The service has seen delivery of 7 new fire appliances, which are equipped with the latest technology and support the advancements in firefighter safety, in particular around addressing the contaminants issue with a clean cab policy. Moving on to that, nice segue in, is the paragraphs 15 and 16, which is the contaminants. As a service, it's pleasing to note that we're recognised nationally for the work that we're doing within this project in relation to contaminants. The work include the clean cab policy as mentioned in the item above, but also the work being undertaken on stations to ensure that our firefighters have the best facilities available to them, both when they are in attendance incidents, but also when they return from those incidents, to ensure their safety and protection from the contaminant issue, which is an emerging issue within the fire and rescue sector. The next big project to be delivered is contained within paragraph 21, and this is the replacement mobilising project, which is no small task on its own. As members will know from previous CFA meetings, the service has experienced challenges with its current provider, and members made the decision to move away to the Motorola system in 2023. The delivery of this comprehensive project is due to go live in October this year. The final project that I would like to draw members' attention to is contained within paragraph 24 to 25, and it's the Eastern Station refurbishment. The project is seeing a significant investment from the Combined Fire Authority to ensure that our buildings and facilities at that site provide a modern yet fit for purpose fire and rescue station that serves the local community for decades to come. Building work is due to commence at the end of August, beginning of September, during which time crews will temporarily relocate round the corner in the Army Reservist base in Ulverscroft Road for a period of around 6 months. Regarding the tasks that have been completed in relation to the CRMP, members will notice a substantial amount of tasks have been undertaken so far this year. However, I would like to, rather than go through each individual one, emphasise the following. Paragraphs 37. 3 stations have now transitioned away from the day crewing plus duty system, the latest being Oakham, which moved across in June this year to a traditional 224. The next station that will transition is going to be in September, which is Wigston Station. with all the DCP stations completing their transition by May 2025. In paragraph 58, in developing our people, the service have delivered a number of courses, including the Inspiring and Emerging Leaders, the Empowering Leaders, Introduction to Supervisory Management, and Practical Management Skills, aimed at investing and upskilling individuals across the service to ensure that we are a fire and rescue service fit for the future, with the potential individuals leading the service as we move forward. Finally, and one of the ones that I'm most proud of, is it contained within paragraph 75. Delivery of building improved trust and engagement within our communities, ensuring that communication methods are effective. A new Be the Difference video has been created and launched across the Leicestershire Fire and Rescue Service social media channels, highlighting what the service does and what employment opportunities exist. There has also been an extensive bus stop signage campaign to ensure that we are targeting the diverse demographics of the whole of LLR and ensuring that we are an employee of choice as we move forward. And with that, Chair, I'm happy to take any questions on an extensive paper.
Points I'll pick up on. First of all, there's the ERV trial. We have one at Market Bosworth, which the benefit we're going to have a look around, so there seems to be quite a good piece of kit. I think it moved off to Brixton and
no. So we have the trial. We have two vehicles on trial at the moment. The first 6 months have now been completed. They were at Wigston and Market Bosworth. The two have now moved to Central Station within the city and one at Uppingham Fire and Rescue Station. The two vehicles are quite different. One is more urban, one more rural. The purpose of moving it into the city is to test how rugged the vehicle is. It's going to be used a lot more. It's also looking at going down the tight roads within the city with the parked vehicle issues we're experiencing. And we want to test them to see where they're most suited. At the end of the 12-month trial, we have set criteria on what we're measuring against. That will be fed back into the service, which I'm sure will then be presented to the CFA on the results of them. But they are looking extremely positive from an on-call perspective. Given the ridership of between 2 and 5, we're hoping, well, evidence so far or thus far says that they do have an impact on the on-call with an increased availability. So we'll obviously bring back a paper to CFA on the results of those trials.
So it seems to be a good initiative, so I'm interested in seeing breakdown and potential weaknesses and opportunities. But further, the other ones mentioned, I think Market Bosworth has just about finished its refurb. I think we opened it about a week ago. I've got in the dialogue to try and arrange this sort of congratulations, everyone. I'll have a bit of a talk. Any other questions?
Thanks for this paper. It's a really good newspaper and well done to the service. I think there's some real highlights here, and just shows the hard work that's gone on. That it's brilliant to see the new vehicles, money well spent as well. So that's really positive. I would really welcome certainly the mental health stuff as well, and the work done to help with the trauma response, especially. I think people forget that the drift can become a tsunami, and it's so good that the service welcomes that. I think people forget, especially with the fire service becoming more and more first on scene to the people. I think people forget firefighters are used to going to fires and seeing what they see in fires, and that's one trauma that they used to. But people forget now that you're first on scene to so many other events that are more and more traumatic, and they're first on scene and have to perform life-saving things that they weren't trained for, but they have to do, and that is very traumatic. And I think that doing that week in, week out has a massive effect on me. And it's so good to see that that is recognised by the service. But also when you go into station, when you speak to our officer, what's great is that they're talking openly about it. And that is such a huge step forward for the service, because actually speaking openly about it shows that that's kind of a whole change in the way. Before it used to be covered up a bit more macho, we don't talk about it, but actually the fact that it's recognised that it can have an effect on you is really positive, that they can talk about it and that they're taking notice. So I really appreciate that, and so that's really fantastic. So yeah, that's all. I just think it's great that we're moving forward on all those things. So thank you. Sorry, I'm not.
No, thank you.
There's no one else. So I'm really to note the progress made since November 2023 in the delivery of projects within the service development programme, and the tasks that are included in CRMP 24-28. Dan, you're in the quick list done. Thank you. Right, item 13 is the Head of Internal Audit Services annual report. So we pages 165 to 184 of the agenda. Neil Jones, Internal Audit Services at the County Council, will present this report. Thank you, Neil.
Thank you very much indeed. Good morning, everyone. I'll present the report. If there's any detailed questions, it's worked with leads on the team. So before I go into the report itself, I just need to take a second just to inform any new members, and I want to returning member, and of course we've got independent. That the arrangements for internal audit, I'm the head of internal audit for the County Council, and the treasurer, currently Amy, arranges for the combined file for the audit to be provided on the team. And it's a requirement under the Public Sector Internal Audit Act standards, which we abide by, that I have to remind you as members, because it's an outsourced relationship. You have to ensure there's an effective internal audit activity, providing independent and objective assurance. That's just something I have to do. So, as mentioned, I'm required under the Public Sector Internal Audit Standards to provide a report to the board. In your internal audit chart, which is not here today, that charter defines this committee as the board. And my annual report is then used as part of the evidence to support the production of the authority annual governance statement, which will be published in future with the draft statement of accounts. So paragraph 6 explains those specific requirements to incorporate into the annual report. These are box standards. The most important is really my opinion on the overall adequacy and effectiveness of your control environment. And that is, and I always explain, it's the frameworks and systems of governance, risk management and internal control, standard descriptors there. As head of internal audit, I'm currently free to determine how I'll make that opinion, how to determine that opinion. There is work underway to try and make that more consistent. But in terms of how I reach my opinion this year, I've Annex 1, which is starting on page 178, shows how I use a combination of evidence really to reach that opinion. So I've got findings of the audits that that team complete. I've got the observations, for instance, attending this committee and the meetings and working with Lauren in terms of revisions of policies and procedures, and then also I can place assurance on other independent assurance advisors. So you had Mazars as your external auditor last year. I read them and took assurance for that, and also the inspectors. So what happens is that Matt's going to do another report of this report, and that focuses on individual audits, and they provide micro assurance. What this report does, it pulls everything together into what we call macro assurance, and it pulls in themes, trends, evidence, etc., to allow me to use my professional judgment. So bottom of page 179 is my opinion, and again, it's overall positive. It's reported throughout the annual report itself and the I need to just explain, obviously the opinion reflects it's not possible to provide audit coverage over all systems and processes, especially with the level of resources we've got. And there is a caveat towards the end of that document. It says that no system of internal control can provide absolute assurance against material mistakes or loss. So it's just important that we give a positive opinion on the work that we're doing that reflects, in terms of how to see the control environment. But there's always scope for something to go wrong with some of the budget times. So there were isolated higher risk rated weaknesses for isolated issues and controls, and I think that will pull on that a bit later. However, there is some long-standing high important recommendations which remain outstanding, and again, that will further develop into program. So the appendix on page 172 is the actual report itself, some background at the start, and then start to provide a summary context on the completed, including some from the prior year and the other one from the year in 2024. A good proportion of those return substantial assurance, which again is always pleasing for the we concluded our work with the National Fraud Initiative, which is looking at data matching into just for the new members of the committee, when I refer to high importance recommendations, so that we use a grading system, and we determine that something is such a high risk, it needs to be determined in the high importance recommendation. We would report in detail to the committee, and it stays within the committee's domain until we are satisfied as interpreters that something's been done to close it down. So that's when we refer to the recommendations. Paragraphs 15, 17 outline how the survey performed. So we provide slightly more detail, but we do charge more straightforward. We've got a good range of customer satisfaction and service stack for funding satisfying. Paragraphs 18 to 121, excuse me, that reflects the internal working to the service, specifically that we have been subject in the spring to an independent external quality assessment. It's something again we have to do as part of the public sector standards. The assessor, I'm not going to dwell on this for they have a bit of detail this report, but the assessor did assign us as top rating, which was great. Heck of a lot of work put into that one, Matt, so thank you, Matt. And also he highlighted favourable benchmarking and good practices. There's also another part of those standards called quality assurance, and he reviewed that, and again that was positive. Nevertheless, we wanted to, as we expected, improvement areas, so we've got an action plan. And then finally in the appendix, paragraph 22, just a reminder I mentioned earlier about feeding into the own government statement. So I have suggested 3 risks to be considered in the agency. So the headlines back in the cover report really are again a positive overall opinion. The implementation of the high court recommendation still needs some close monitoring. Most all the blood work was achieved. Well, blood work was achieved, just carrying on. Small service days within budget, and then a positive quality assessment. Only a few significant improvements. So, well, again, another good year. Any questions?
Thank you, Neil. Any questions?
Not a question, it's just to thank Neil for his work and efforts on it. We accept the report in full. Appreciate a few bits of paper don't really kind of justify the work that goes on to get to that point. So I appreciate the contributions and the report. Yeah.
Is progress against the internal audit plan 2024 to 2025. This is pages 185 to 206 of the agenda. Matt Davis, audit manager, resolve this report. To you, Matt.
Sure. Neil touched on the QA there. All I actually wanted to say in addition was I know we're selecting members from here, selected officers as well that have complaints questions in respect of the service. So I just wanted to thank everyone who's, as Neil has said, we score really favourably comparing us to public sector and private sector, housing, etc. We scored really well. So thank you very much for that. Moving on to the actual progress. It's the plan that was agreed by this committee on the 13th of March. Quick canter through it, because just some areas that I really want to draw your attention to. And the rest of it's fairly standard for this time of year, as you'd expect us just into Q2, actually. So on paragraph 6, on page 186, we introduced the legacy high important recommendations that we've been talking about. But there's more detail on those in paragraph 11, so I would like to cover those off there, just to draw your attention. That's why it starts talking about them. Moving on to paragraph 7 of the report and progress against the plan. Firstly, there were 4 pieces of work that inevitably struggled 2 financial years at the end of the year. Probably doesn't end up on the 31st of March. So they were the ones that were doing the final quarter in relation to reconciliations and balances, payroll, pensions, ICT, and I'm pleased to report that put those off and completed them all, each with substantial assurance. So that nicely covers off and closes our 2024 work. Secondly, then moving on to the current financial year, in 24-25, the plan, as it says, 10 distinct areas. So let's put a page in. So it's bound to be a decade. Sorry, that wasn't allowed to go on.
Oh, you thinking Raymond gets in.
I'm not worried, I might have my bag, I'm sure it's. Yeah, 24-25 and there were 10 distinct areas, 9 of which are at various stages of work in progress, and 1 is not started yet, but I'm sure you agree, as we've said, we're just out of Q1, so to have started various stages of work with 9 of them is a really healthy position to be in, and close down prior year work as well. So the 9 that are at various stages of work in progress, I won't go into all the detail, but one's nearing completion, one's at testing phase, 4 is scheduled for the end of the financial year, of 1 in relation to the board, you can see a set timetable of work for the year 2. And then that just leaves 2 other areas which are related to procurement. One is addressing recommendations, and the other one is readiness for the public procurement regs, and we're going to move into those in a minute. So good progress for the financial year. Moving on to paragraph 13, and we talk about the areas of partial assurance that are still in the committee. And again, for the benefit of new people to this committee, just a very brief recap. We've got some work in relation to contract procedure rules that needed to be addressed. So summarising those, it was things like a single database for all contracts, training, single supplier benchmarking, etc. And then we've also got a second area as well in relation to accounts payables, and that was changes to bank account reporting. So we've got 2 distinct areas, and moving on to those specifically, I'd like to take in reverse order to those that are on page 188, 189 of the pack. It just makes sense because the accounts payables one, subsequent to writing this report to bring everyone right up to speed, we talked about there needing supplementary questions answered by the finance section here. We've received those and we're satisfied with the answers given, but obviously the next stage is to test them, and we weren't able to complete time for this committee. Answers in the time. Yeah, I'm really hoping, I'll put down here the next one, you've read my mind, that we're hoping at the next committee that we can close it out and bring some people fairly confident we have to close out the next committee once we've tested it, so that's good. It is worth noting as well though, in relation to changes to bank accounts, that there's a long term, what I would say is an even more robust solution that's coming through as well, that's being looked at, and that's using work like to sort of independently notify and approve and changes to supplies in a timely manner, including bank accounts, obviously. So that actually workflows it, ensures segregation of duties, etc. And forces something to be done before it goes live. So so that's another stage to it.
That's not the app that crashed pretty much the entire IT world.
Question, mate. So then moving on to the contract procedure rules and regarding procurement areas. Previously, we've done some work on this. Then we've done a follow-up piece that still resulted in an overall partial opinion. And that was because there were 4 distinct areas that we needed to improve that were agreed to by management. One was signed digital contracts held. A second one was the training. Then it was sort of the management monitoring of the training, procurement training, and it was benchmarking as well. The first 2 should have been implemented by now, so the signed digital copies of all contracts and the training. So we went back and tested. To be honest, with the centrally held contracts, there was some information that remained missing or that was out of date, so we couldn't sign that off on the sample task. And in the procurement training of staff, the assistant chief fire officers openly stated that the training's not took place yet. I know at the conclusion of this report, Judy, in her capacity as assistant chief fire officer for service support, wants to update those specific areas. So that's fine. But what I wanted to do was also before that draw your attention to Appendix 1, page 200 of the pack. And that relates to our second piece of procurement work. So that was, there's obviously synergies between the 2 pieces of work with procurement, but just to summarise what that piece of work is about, it's ensuring that policies and procedures are in place for transforming public procurement requirements and then the associated governance and training. So you know from this that we identified and discussed with Julie readiness concerns. We've spoken about it, and Julie wants to talk to you about how they are bridging the gaps and signing up and actually plan the readiness, etc. So before I hand over to Julie to update those various areas of procurement matters, I'll obviously then take any questions on the plan and anything supplementary to what Julie says. Summarising, I'm obviously really pleased to say we've closed down 23-24. I'm happy with the progress made to date in our 24-25 work. I'm fairly optimistic that we'll be able to close down the bank account sign board recommendation now, subject to testing, obviously, for the government's testing, assuring that we'll be testing it with robust, as you'd expect. I do have concerns about not closing down our important recommendations in procurement and the readiness for the procurement regulations that's meant to be implemented by the 28th of October this year. But obviously, I'll hand over to Judy to discuss progress made or taking any questions. Thanks, Judy.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I'm not in a position to try and suggest that there are any excuses or reasons why we've not covered over some of these issues. If I can take them in slightly reverse order with regards to the changes to contract procurement rules. You've met Colette online there, and I'd also point at Carl at the back there. We will have a plan in place for meeting the requirements of the contract procurement rules changes. It's only in effect for the fire and rescue services, only around about 70 employees that would actually affect in terms of the training, along with our colleagues in the National Fire Chiefs Council and in liaison with the procurement lead for the National Fire Chiefs Council. There is a training package that is being developed currently and in discussion, as I say, with larger fire and rescue services. They too are not yet rolling out that training because it's not quite in its readiness state. So it will be rolled out. We have only got we've got a very manageable number of staff that would impact upon. So I give a verbal assurance that that plan is in place and that we will meet those requirements. There are also reasons in relation to some of the issues, not excuses, in relation to the contract management. And that is twofold. One is we've had significant changes in terms of staffing and capacity issues. We have been out to advert twice now for somebody to take overall responsibility for that contracts management side of things. It is an area that we know we need to improve on, and it's an area that, and I'm not throwing this to Carl per se, but it's an area that Carl, Colette and myself are very aware of in terms of where that responsibility needs to sit. So apologies that it hasn't been covered off. It is something that we're very aware of. It is a capacity issue, but we are working to, as I say, recruit to that post. And I continue to work positively. I hope Matt will concur with that, and certainly with Lynn in relation to having those conversations. As I say, it's not something that I want to try and suggest otherwise, Chair. We're aware it's an issue, and we're trying to get across it.
No, obviously we'll be working closely with you. I just thought, yeah, obviously the proximity of go live with procurement and issue for family. Just needs to bring attention of the committee really. Just continue to work with Julie. This one.
Matt, thank you for your work. But firstly, I think we must provide some degree of reassurance that we know there are some issues and they're being worked on. I think it's always, if you have a report where someone's saying everything's sort of brilliant and fine, if that starts to give concern as that there's things being missed. So the fact that there are things that we're aware we need to improve on, and the fact that we've got that reassurance that work is being underdone to improve that, it just gives us a sense of, and have some real confidence in this. And thank you both for your work, and Julie, and all the officers the work on it. Anyone, any questions? Okay. In which case, I move that the report be noted and that A, two legacy partial assurance reports relating to contract procedure rules and batch respectively, containing the high importance recommendations remain outstanding. These continue to be retested as part of the 24-25 coverage. B, work is progressing well with the 24-25 audit plan is at the stage anticipated this time of year. And C, from conversations held, there are concerns with respect to readiness for addressing the requirements of the Procurement Act 2023 in time for the go live date 28-24. And to note thanks to the auditors and to the Fire Rescue Service for all the work that's been put into it. Can I have a second of that, please? Sarah, thank you. Item 15. So we move on to the Procurement and Waivers Annual Report. This is pages 207 to 2010 of your agenda pack. Back to you, Colin. Officers.
And this time I feel offered the development opportunity the other way, Julie.
Thank you, Chair. In a Radio 4 link, and at risk of sounding a little bit flippant, I hope the report is evidence that we do actually capture quite a lot of information in relation to our procurement activity, and particularly in relation to those that require compliance with the transparency. So this is a very short report that describes, in accordance with our strategies for fleet replacement, it describes the replacement of the 5 vehicles, fire appliances, 7 of which are now in service and are being fitted out and ready to go on the run. Contract ordered to the value of 2.2 million. Major refurbishment of Easton Fire Station and Market Bosworth Fire Station, which were in the capital budget, and again were tendered through the forgive me, I always forget the JTC, and I should have put it in the actual report. The Joint Centrals Tribunal is the JTC terms and conditions tender processes, and further replacement of officer vehicles, again within our fleet strategy, through the Crown Commercial Services framework of a significant value there. And again, the electric vans. So there's been no procurement policy notices issued since the last reporting period, and no breaches of the contract procurement rules, procedure rules identified, no legal action taken. And happy to answer any questions, Chair. Thank you.
Any questions? Any questions? Yes, I move that the summary of procurement activity in 23-24 as required by Rule 19.2 the contract procedure rules 2018 be noted. And I'll second it. Dan, thank you. Item 16 is the sickness analysis April 2023 to March 2024 report. This is pages 211 to 214. I believe this is you this time, Alan.
I'm going to give this one to Paul for another opportunity.
Are you getting a bit of a theme here?
Thanks, boss. Thanks, Chair. Hopefully today will cover my development opportunities off. The report covers the sickness analysis for the previous financial year, April 23 through to March 2024. And members will note from the report that absence has increased over the last 12-month period, both from a whole-time operational perspective, but also a non-uniform support area. Paragraph 5 highlights that a total of 2,964 shifts were lost to both short-term and long-term sickness in the whole-time operational staff, which is an increase of 2.9% of the previous year. However, it should also be noted that it's not in the report that there's been an increase in the number of staff. We've increased over 7% of our operational staff. So we've had an increase of staff, which is equating to an actual increase in sickness. Comparatively, paragraph 8 highlights that over 1,343 days were lost to sickness in the non-operational staff area. Again, this is an increase on the previous year. And whilst members may be concerned about the increased levels of sickness, I'd like to draw your attention in particular to paragraph 12, where its comparison is made at a national level and places the Leicestershire Fire and Rescue Service as the second best nationally, with low performance percentage of absence. We've seen a combined loss of 8.16 days compared to the national average across the sector of 9.56 days per members of staff. And again, I'd like to give assurances to members that's been reiterated at both previous CFA meetings through direct reports and today, that we're doing everything within our power to reduce that level of sickness to as low as practically possible. And we continue to provide a first-class service to our staff to ensure their well-being and their absences managed accordingly. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there anything, a similarity in all of the illnesses? You know, used to be a cold or a bad back and things historical. Is there a trend that you can see up, and is there potential that you could try and do something to help? That's what I'm trying to find out.
So we are seeing sickness around musculoskeletal and also mental health. When that has come through the Health and Safety Committee, which is where we start looking at it from a strategic perspective, a lot of it is coming through as non-work related, particularly around mental health. So we have all the support, as covered previously, that is available to staff, but a lot of people are identifying non-work related issues. But again, that support remains in place. Around musculoskeletal, we are seeing non-work related injuries, and we do have the physio team available to provide that. So an example, if you're playing football on a Saturday afternoon and you all of a sudden do your ACL or your MCL, that is non-work related, but it impacts our level of sickness. We do provide physio support to try and get the individual back to full operational duties as quickly as possible. But we also have the modified duties, which we can get them back into the workplace to carry out meaningful work. So we're doing everything we can. We do have systems and processes in place to try and manage people's absence accordingly and back to work.
But that's excellent. I appreciate that. I think all people that employ people, particularly in a reasonable number, have got to be aware of mental illness. It is just society, the pace of living and how we regulate our lives, or forced into this sort of, this is how you've got to be. There is enormous amounts of pressure. It's just a thought, have you got somebody who's competent to be able to talk to people? Because, you know, they feel better in a week or a month's time or a day's time. But if they're subject to something where they have a problem, I think it's worth, because you've got good staff, and your good staff need to be looked after, as simple as that.
We have an array of things and services available to deal with mental health. We have a wellbeing officer, we have mental health first aiders, we have the Amicus support line, we have occupational health, we have the firefighters charity. So there's an array of different options for people that are available to help them with their mental health, whether it's non-work related or all work related. So I'm quite comfortable that we have all the processes in place. It's just trying to support those people back into the workplace.
I mean, the biggest challenge for all employees, I think, is staff retention.
It's like staff family working in the end of healthcare. And it's post-COVID. And I think after COVID too, people has sort of relaxed a bit more, and it suddenly hit them that they are, that it has had an impact on them, whether or not that's had, that's what's happened locally, I don't know. Though it's mostly non-work related, I'm sure you get assurances that as much as possible will be done to help people back into the workplace, because it will help the mental health with to have that routine for what it is an increase nationally, and we're feeling it locally as well. Thank you, Chair.
I think I'd refer back to Paul's comments earlier around the welfare, and obviously the previous papers we've brought time and time again. I think where we have to be realistic is we are as a fire and rescue service, we're a relatively poorly funded fire and rescue service, and we're lean because of that. And we are delivering an awful lot as an organisation. I would argue we are very close to capacity, at times at capacity. And that comes back to the point Councillor Newson said, that falls on a lot of professional support staff, or it falls on a relatively few number of professional support staff, and that will have a cumulative effect. We've invested heavily in our occupational health department, and with the support of the authority, we actually closed down Forge Health, the external arm, to focus solely on our staff. But equally, we have to understand we can't provide private healthcare for everyone, for everything. That's what the National Health Service is for. So we are pretty much at the capacity of what we can offer for our staff, which is a good offering. And compared to most, well, certainly a lot of private sector will be frankly awesome, and compared to a lot of private sector will be pretty good standards, but we're at capacity of what we can offer. And I think society is challenged at the moment in a number of ways, and I think we'll have to we can't physically put any more to that without taking away from other parts of the service now. And I think that's probably, I think we need to recognise where we are, and that's in a good place actually. Our sickness levels comparatively across the country as fire and rescue service are very good. We are delivering an awful lot of service to an exceptionally high standard, and I'm keen that we continue to do that. But we need to continue to focus on getting people back to work where we can do.
Yeah. Human beings have accidents and they become ill. And we're never going to get this number to 0, nor should we strive to, because then you're encouraging people to come to work when they're ill, which will just make the whole station ill, and colds and flu spread around like wildfire. So actually, sometimes it's better that people stay off when they've got a cold and don't actually give it to everyone around the station. So actually, sometimes it's better for somebody to take a couple of days off and not give it to everyone else. So I think we're doing really well. This shows that actually what we're doing is going well. We're second best. And so that's actually really good. We're never going to get to 0. So what we're doing is doing well. Yes, we can continue to do really well. We can continue to fine tune, but we're doing really well on the resources we've got. And so I think we should concentrate on doing that.
So, okay. In many ways, our people probably are most valuable resource. And just have sort of moving forward, just a little bit of a top level breakdown. So maybe the number of individuals on long-term sickness and a breakdown sort of those that are work related and non-related, just some real top high level figures.
If you bear with us, yes, we're happy to give that. We might have to be sensitive just with the numbers, because that might lead to identifiable individuals. So we'll look to provide you something that gives you what you need, but without compromising an individual's personal circumstances.
Not a question as such, but I mean, on my document, that's sort of diagram I'm looking at, trying to read even with glasses. It's not an easy one. So I'm not sure how that's happened, but anyway, it's a bit just commenting. It'd be nice if, because I don't know how it's all produced or whatever, but it really, I've looked at it and sort of, I mean, it's 3 pages of it, and you just, even with, I've got a magnifying glass at home, and I've got glasses trying to read it.
That's probably more common to pick up with.
That was separately as well, in addition to the general plan. It was sent electronically because of that.
Yeah.
It's difficult to get that on still page like that. It's quite difficult.
Yeah, all right, okay. You've got one day 0 printers. So I move that the 6 analysis for the period of April 2023 to March 2024 be noted. Have a second, please. Better you got everything. Somebody please let's stick around with it. Agenda item 17 is the Kitchen ICFRS Improvement Plan and Cultural Report recommendations. This is pages 215 to 314 of your agenda pack. Over to you again, Callum, and officers.
I will take the feedback from my colleagues and I'll shoulder this report. Sorry, a bit of a potted history. In around 2015, Her Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary, as it was at the time, was given further statutory powers to change into Her Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabularies and Fire and Rescue Services, and a national programme of inspection commenced. Our first inspection was in 2018. We've had a subsequent COVID-specific inspection in 2021. Our second full inspection as a service was 2022. And we are eagerly anticipating our third inspection in September of this year to run for a period of 12 weeks with inspectors actually on site on the 7th and 21st of October. Sorry, 7th to the 21st of October. Our last full inspection report is included in that bundle, and that's in pages 265 to 313. I would encourage members to read it, as it kind of really reflects where we were as a service a couple of years ago, and it's a report that I personally am proud of, and I feel the service should be proud of, as it kind of really shows our significant and continued improvement over a relatively short period of time. So I do think it's a worthwhile read if you do have the time. With that said, it did still identify some areas where we could improve, and we are a learning organisation. We want to be the best as possible. So this learning was identified and built into an action plan, and we've been working steadily through that. Aside from our individual service inspections, the Inspectorate also ran a separate thematic or themed review into the culture of the fire and rescue sector. That was done based on the back of a number of media articles and a number of poor performing services identifying values and cultures issue. As part of that, 10 services were visited, but Leicestershire was not one of those 10 fire and rescue services. They then built a spotlight review, as it was called, into the values of the fire and rescue service, which placed 20 further recommendations on all fire and rescue services. So I'm sorry to take people on this journey. We had our individual inspection report, which identified a number of areas of good practice for us. Then we had the thematic review, which said all services need to do that, and some of that information conflicted. So we've had to kind of boil it down, work through where we sit individually against some of those recommendations, and ultimately build a number of action plans together for that, which is the reports that Councillor Harrison's has identified as a lot of information in minutiae detail, excepting if you've got it electronically, you can zoom in, and the report was shared separately. So we haven't done that to bamboozle you. We've done it to share with where we are in anticipation of our next inspection. Generally speaking, my officers and I are comfortable we have progressed in all areas as a service, and confident isn't the right word, because I wouldn't say I'm ever confident for an inspection, but we are looking forward to the inspection. I believe the report will demonstrate where we've really continued to move forward as a fire and rescue service across the board, in not only the areas that they've identified for us to improve, but other areas where we wanted to improve as a sector. So the inspectorate will come in. We anticipate our report will be with us generally December time this year. The only thing I would highlight, if you read the report, our last one, it will show there were 4 areas of assessment being inadequate, requires improvement, good, and outstanding. The inspectorate have now introduced a 5th measure, or 5th grading of adequate. And whilst I don't like the word, I do like the addition of the 5th grading, because there was a long way between good and requires improvement. So I think that kind of hits the mark with it, really. I would like to think we will improve on our report from 2022, which will be no mean feat for an organisation funded the way we are and as lean as we are. To continually move forward will be a very good thing. With that said, we need to get the inspection done and actually get the report before I can start singing everyone's praises. But we wanted to update you with where we are of all the actions. The table on page 217 and 218, those small tables, they kind of show the number of actions we had, the progress against them, and kind of really show that positive trend. That data shot was taken on the 1st of July, and I am confident and a lot more actions have now been closed. We're being really stringent around not closing actions down until we've not only done them, but there's evidence to support them as well, which is why we kind of see some of the numbers we've got. I have to stress as well, not all of them will be closed down by the time the inspectorate come back, because we've only been working on them 18 months. And to realistically change and embed actions, some of these will take longer than 18 months, probably even 2 to 3 years. But like I say, I'm eagerly awaiting the inspection to demonstrate how far we've come. Happy to take any questions, Chair.
Thank you, Chairman. I remember 2015. I remember going with the then Chief Fire Officer to London, a big meeting with Sir Tom, who was the man, explaining to fire officers what's going to happen. You know, and it was just amazing because the shell shock of the discipline and the way it came across, you could see a lot of them don't even understand what this is all about. I did actually have a chance at the end of the meeting just to approach him and introduce myself and said, look, is there any guidance you could give? And he said, well, policemen have notebooks and they put details down. So it's that was the key. Because I think people say, well, we had a tower drill, that was it. You know, well, who was there? What did you do? It's just the filling in. So I can see where we were as an authority and where we are today. It's amazing. That journey has been hard and brutal at times. And I'm just so pleased to be able to come back as a member and say, wow, look, this is where you've got. It's been a tough job. And I think, you know, recognition to all the team. It isn't easy when you're trying to do that. Then obviously we had this shift systems, everything another kicked into touch. So there's a lot of history and action gone on. And I think there's been a lot of professional determination, resolution to actually get there. So I think I'm sort of can see where we were and to see where we are today is very dramatic, and I think congratulations. Well done.
I want to say it's no small measure with the top team we have at the moment. I think it has been, I mean, I've been here many years, as you know, so I've been through different teams to be like that. And I have to say that the top team we have at the moment is one of the best we've had yet. It's no small measure of the work that we don't put around the family. Thank you so much. So yeah, I have been through tough times.
There's one question. Do the assessment criteria, if they kind of remained relatively constant from a council point of view, in sort of planning, it's really challenging if the goalposts of what you're aiming at, those sort of keep changing and sort of try and assess how they're doing. So if this assessment criteria is very constant, so you can actually assess like for like when you're sort of thinking investing.
So yes, rigorously so. So the first round from 2018, they inspect all 43 English fire and rescue services from that point, and they keep the methodology and assessment criteria rigid until everyone's been done. Then they consult and negotiate of what round 2 looks like and what they'll be looking at and the marking criteria for that. And now we're in round 3. They've done exactly the same. So we are one of the last services to be inspected in round 3, but we are inspected under exactly the same criteria as number 1. Now, that in many ways is useful for us because we get a little bit more time to prepare for the inspection and to look at the learning that's gone on. But in any ways, in equal measures, it's difficult because we don't get our report until a year and a half after someone else has got their report. So in fairness to the inspectorate, yes, they are very consistent and rigorously consistent around the methodology. If I were to express one frustration, the Spotlight Culture Review was released probably 6 months after we'd got our service specific report. And it just doesn't give us enough time to really work through some things. I haven't mentioned it, but there will also be a misconduct report coming out in August this year, I believe, a month before our next service inspection. So the tempo is high. Probably rightly so, and there are room for the service and sector to improve. Absolutely. So I'm not fighting the inspectorate on that front. It's just the timing and spacing is challenging at times.
Information to meddle and change things. So you're never really entirely sure what you're comparing with what and what you're actually aiming for. So it's good to hear. Hopefully it will continue as well. If there's no further questions, I'll move that the progress of the plan can be put down. There you go. Yeah, the improvement plan, good report, recommendations be noted. Dan, thank you. We're almost there.
Got there in the end.
Okay, so item 18, so the next item on the agenda is the annual equalities report 2023 to 2024. This is pages 315 to 362 of the agenda pack. Judy, I think you'll be presenting this one.
Yeah, this is my development opportunity chair. To tell me, yeah, thank you. Chair, thank you. I know this is a subject close to members' heart, particularly in relation to this scrutiny committee. The annual equalities report is a backwards look. It's a backwards look over the periods April 2023 to March 24, and we do produce it not only to give ourselves a view of what we've been doing and how we're getting on, but also we are required to actually publish this, which is why it's come to committee for note, really. So that's under the Equality Act and the Public Sector Equalities Duty. So the report itself just talks effectively to the various statistics that are comprised within the actual annex to the report. Just to pick out a few bits, because it's a relatively lengthy report, it's quite comprehensive. And I think the thing to say, Chair, if we all know, is that there's still work to be done, and I know Councillor Newton, something, Councillor Harvey, that's something that you've talked about quite a lot in other committees, and we are still striving to make those improvements and to make that difference for our communities. I've just picked out a few little bits for you, really, before we seek your support to publish this on the website. The data that we use is actually from 2022 to 2023. So again, it is an even further backwards look, and that data set is actually described to us by the Home Office in terms of the period that they want us to actually look at, so that they can give some form of national comparison. So coming forward then, in May 2023, we appointed our Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Manager, who a few of you have met, and that's Isla. Isla's been working hard to, I tasked her in the first instance to work internally within our own internal organisation. Some equality inclusion officers do work externally within the community, and that would be an area of focus in due course. But my interpretation coming into the service was that we needed to do more work in relation to our people internally. And that links into the revised people strategy that complements the CRMP. Akin to what the Chiefs talked about, we also had the National Core Code of Ethics. Imposed is probably not the right word. It was the right thing to do, but they were developed from a national centre, and they are imposed therefore certainly on the English Fire Rescue Service. We've rolled out the Core Code of Ethics across the service, and they have become very well embedded and do in fact complement our own core values very comfortably. We've also undertaken EDI training, and actually, Chair, what I might be doing is cutting across some of the aspects of the inclusion scheme report, because it does link to the priorities that we set within that scheme. So if I just pick out a couple of the key sort of performance indicators, if I can call it that, I think, again, linking into some of the things that the Chiefs raised with you all members, a lot of this analysis work, all of this analysis work, sits within our support services functions, and the drive for data and data intelligence is actually predicated on the information that we've got in our systems, and having the skilled people to be able to extract that information. Just having a quick look across our regional partners, and we have in the region of between 20 and 15 I said that backwards, 15 and 20 less support services staff to perform those same functions than our colleagues in the wider East Midlands region on the whole. So that is kind of pleading poverty, but it's also a fact of the matter that I think we do exceptionally well to be able to produce this kind of information, because it does fall on 2 or 3 in key individuals at any one period of time. So if I just pick out some very, very quick highlights, and again of interest maybe to members, again we do compare ourselves with our regional sort of partners. Interestingly, and bringing its own sort of challenges in the future, we can or we do report that similarly to Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire, we have actually got a little bit of an ageing workforce. Now that's largely due to some of the changes to the pension scheme and life choices that people make. We do retain our staff really quite well, certainly on the full-time side of things, although again anecdotally that has changed a little bit in recent years. But equally, and on the flip side of that same coin, we do actually show that we have got a number of, if I can call it this, people who identify as being within the younger kind of generation, so sort of the 25 to 35 age bracket. And again, I would expect to see that change again when we report on the recruitment activity that we've done in the last 18 months. One of the things that I'm really pleased with in relation to this data, and I won't, it's there for you to analyse in your own time, is we have seen a marginal increase in people who are willing to declare themselves, because remember, this is about self-identification in relation to race, and from a black and minority ethnic position. That has improved, although when you look at the demographic of Leicester as a city and as a county and Rutland, we still have a lot of work to do. We do know that. But again, in relation to our LGBT self-identifying colleagues, again, we've seen an increase in people being willing to be open. If you look at that in relation to the culture report that the Chief just talked about, part of that is about feeling safe in the workplace. So I take some level of encouragement that our workforce are starting to have the confidence to be able to self-identify within those traditionally kind of head down type arenas. So that is really pleasing. So I think in relation to the actual equality report itself, I'll leave that with members to digest. With your support, I'll recommend to the Equality Officer that we get this published on the website to fulfil our duties under the Equalities Act post this meeting. I'm happy to take questions on that, Chair, as you see fit.
Thank you so much. Just to say that I've been quite heavily involved in the equalities work. I'm quite keen that we move forward, and we have done very well in the past with some of the awards that we've won in terms of our work. But in terms of just about the equality champions, just how effective have they been, and so what type of training do they have, type of work that they're doing? Thank you, Chair.
So, thank you, Chair. We've changed tack a little bit under Isla's direction, yes, as you're aware through your SEDIP role, Councillor Newton, and we've moved slightly away from the champions type role. So we've brought the network groups themselves under one forum, rather than trying to be something to lots of different disparate groups. So Isla has been the key focal point. She's done an awful lot of work on station with our firefighters, helping them to dispel some of the myths around language and things like that. So that has been very well received. Again, relating that to the core code of ethics, because of course it's about ethical values and integrity as well. One of our members of staff, Greg Bailey, has done an awful lot of work around sort of challenging people's perceptions and so on. So that I'm pleased to say that training is embedded. I think the challenge that we now face is taking it on into the next iteration.
I come back, and as you know, it's something I've been very heavily involved in and very interested in. And I did meet some time ago, I was asked to meet a number of women firefighters who felt that they weren't getting on the promotion ladder maybe as quickly as they feel they ought to have done. And I just wanted to be assured that we are picking up on our qualities issues and we're moving those forward. They should be moved forward.
Absolutely.
Basically, and giving training to others who may well need the training to get on that career ladder.
So you'll be aware that we ran our first Women in Fire conference earlier in the year, which was a huge success for I was really pleased with the number of people, women from Leicestershire, that came forward. We also have our first woman station manager who's recently taken up post. I'm saying that I haven't got the historical knowledge. She's the first female station manager in Leicestershire. Thank you. I hadn't got the background knowledge to that sort of
control room.
outside of the control room. Thank you. Which is fantastic. And we also run I call them so you want to get promoted courses. There is a better title for that, but again, we are putting that support in place for people.
I think there's professional development and other development areas that we can focus on. So certainly, going for promotion is a personal choice. So irrespective of what we do, the individual has to feel comfortable to be able to go for promotion. That's not to dilute the issues where female operational members of staff certainly may feel they have to be perfect before they go for promotion, and we'll certainly work through that. We've taken some brave decisions over the last few years as a fire and rescue service. We have some visual representation now. Judy is an assistant chief officer. She's not here because of her gender. She's here because of her ability, but her gender does show that there is room to get through that perceived glass ceiling. Direct entry process that we entered into about a year ago now. Again, a visible representation of a female officer at station manager level. And I'm also really pleased to announce that a homegrown talent, for want of a better word, is now operating at station manager level, more than capable of doing the role. So there's the traditional promotion process and supporting people with it, but I think the visual representation is equally as key as important. So it's not just one thing. This will be many dripping taps in many different areas, kind of really promoting the agenda forward. But I do stress everyone is in their positions they're in because of their ability, and anything else happens to be a bonus.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
just just some housekeeping. Sorry, just before.
Thank you.
IT, internal technology.
Yeah.
It's because of the OneDrive system.
Yes. Yeah. No. Just.
Thank you.
I was waiting, and then you did it. And
So I move that A, the report be noted, and B, the chief fire and risk officer will be authorised to make any necessary amendments prior to publication. Including the Thank you.
Thank you.
That kind of leads us on into our final agenda item today, substantive agenda item, which is the Qualities, Diversity and Inclusion Scheme 2024-2027. This is included on pages 363 to 382 in the agenda pack. Back to you again, Judy.
I think my development opportunity just continues to keep growing, doesn't it? So I have covered an amount of this in both response to the questions, but also in my previous report. So this is a forwards look as opposed to the annual report. And this sets out for members the proposals that we intend to pursue over the next 2 to 3 years. And I say that because you can never say never. We might need to make some changes to this depending on what the thematic review says and so on and so forth. So it is as is, and it's designed to further implement the people strategy, as I said earlier on in the previous report. I'd like to just point out on paragraph 7, because again, slightly at odds with what I've just said, there is a little bit of information there for members in relation to a bit of a backwards look that talks to you about how we've actually progressed against some of those key sort of performance, they're not performance indicators per se, but they are areas of ambition that we know we set out within the people strategy. So we have progressed our equality impact assessments. When Isla joined us, she picked that up as a key area of action. Again, we've done that code of ethics and core code workshops that I've talked to you about. So if I move on to the actual annex, and thanks, Councillor, I will check the various links because it is a bit clunky. I commend to you the actual equality and inclusion scheme. There's a lot that talks to you there about the various ambitions that we've got within the original scheme 2022 to 2027, and then it moves into and I will just go back and check some of these a little bit for my own confirmation, but it sets out our priorities. We are required as a service to have equality objectives under that Equality Act, and that's this appendix to set out our priorities around increasing the diversity of our workforce, around embedding that knowledge and understanding of equality and inclusion across the wider service and that ongoing development and capability. It sets out a third priority of embedding that that culture of evidence-based decision making relating to information and policies regarding inclusion and governance arrangements. And it talks to the priority of developing and embedding our inclusive culture where all staff are valued and feel engaged. And sorry, I've missed out the rapidly scrolling to priority 5 of increasing our knowledge and understanding of our diverse communities. And again, that use of data to inform where we do things like positive action and where we take some of our roadshows to try and encourage that wider engagement. So, Chair, on that basis, I'm happy to commend, it's been quite a lengthy toil for members this morning. I'm happy to commend the Equality and Inclusion Scheme to members. If there are any points of interest or question, I'll be happy to answer.
Any questions, please? Yeah, I guess, I mean, I just wanted to sort of reiterate, spoke a while back to a number of staff, and there is a lot of underrepresentation in that group. I just want, people should be employed and promoted on the basis of their ability. But I just want to ensure that we're not neglecting those underrepresented groups either.
I think,
Yeah, it's just point I was saying, Bristol here, obviously got a very diverse population here. We do have it elsewhere, where other areas, so we're not the only area. I just wanted to mention, I did go along to the iftar break of the feast event that they held, which was very good, very informative. And, I think it's good for obviously our faith try and get to these things to show us support. So people can work really.
If there's no further questions, we move that. A, the content of the Equality, Diversity, and Inclusion Scheme 2024 to 27 be noted. And B, the Chief Fire and Rescue Officer be authorised to make any necessary amendments to the fire application. Have a second, please. Okay, item 20, urgent items. As mentioned, we have no urgent items. And 21 is date of the next meeting. The next meeting will be on the 11th of September. Meeting starting at 10 a.m. There will be another briefing for that. Also, to thank you all for attending today's meeting. If your questions, contributions on what has been quite a substantive agenda, officers, thank you very much. With that, I close the meeting at 11:57 a.m.